I'm the Zim. This is the Zim video. This is part 35 of my rideshare experience videos. I'm an artist and musician from Seattle, Washington. I moved to San Diego. I started driving Lyft. It's my primary source of income. And I started making these videos about how I do things in that world. I wanted to give a couple shout outs real quick. Shout outs are to people that are newly engaging the channel. I see all of you that have been engaging for a while. I just like to say thank you to the people that are new, that have just found the channel through one of the videos and are engaging because of the rideshare videos. I get a little bit of engagement because of other videos, but not nearly as much as the rideshare videos. So these are shout outs to the people engaging the rideshare videos. Raymond Flowey, Coach Jason Noel, Pineapple Gypsy, Doc Rocks, Erica Watson, thank you for engaging. If you have any other comments or questions or whatever, feel free to keep them coming. I love it. And then there's a few people that have been, so this next thing I wanted to say, so I just wanted to give a little bit of a, bring us up to date a little bit for those of you that have been watching on the regular, with my intentions on the channel, to make sure that I keep myself in check, I guess, to keep myself honest about it, and to let you know what my intentions are as well, to keep your expectations in check as well, I suppose. Because as you know, as I get more engagement on this channel, it makes me feel real good, and it can tend to make me feel like privileged, I guess is a way to put it. But I just want to make sure that I'm bringing value, and the way that I want to bring value to you as a community is to tell a very honest depiction of what this rideshare experience has been like for me, and if that means, and hopefully in a way that is very matter of fact about it. I don't want to get political about things, and I don't want to get too opinionated about things. My goal is to share my experience, and then also hopefully in that sharing of the experience bring you value that you can have and I can have, and we all can have the most success at this job, because it's clear to me, Uber, Lyft, whoever you're working for, their business, their goal, their main objective is to make as much money as they can. They do a little bit of customer service stuff. They do just enough to get by, so that us as drivers just don't drive. But of course, there's always a room for improvement. If anybody wants to listen or wants that feedback, we as a community can give it to them. But right now, it is what it is. So I'm trying to look at the way it is and go, okay, so this is the way it is. What can we do to have the greatest success the way it is? And that's my goal. I do not want to get into, like I said, a political space. I don't want to get into a space of complaining, because that just snowballs, and that's not what this channel, and that's not what my show is trying to do. And the main reason I bring this up is because the last show, part 35, when I talked about the Hertz rental program, I started to feel myself slide into more of a complaining space, and that's not my intention. That's not what I want to do. Maybe you didn't notice it, but I noticed it, so I just wanted to put that out there for you. So let's get on with the show. What I like to do, what I do every week, is go into my how much I made. Then I talk about my star ratings, and then I bring up a topic that I've been thinking about over the week. And I mentioned it last week, and this week's topic is the cars I've driven and the pros and cons of each. So if you're thinking of your own car or thinking of using the rental program and deciding on which car to pick, here are some. I'll give you some ideas that worked for me and what I like as a vehicle. And then, yeah, so that's about it. So let's get in. And this show may be a bit longer today, because each one of these sections I do have stuff to talk about more, and I've already given you a pretty long intro into the show. So let's get started. This is how much I made this week. $822.55 was deposited to my account, and as you can see in the heads-up display, there's $4 more, because I made $4 in tips. And if you're new to the show, my heads-up display talks about what I made total, including tips. It also talks about what my current as of recording this star rating is. So depending on if I've driven the next week, it may change, things like that. And current how many drives I've given up to the point of recording this. is what's in there. And then the red, so I haven't talked about the red number in a while. That's my debt. And if you go back to a few videos, so the idea is, can I do this job, make enough to live off of, and pay off my debt? So far, it's not working out at all. I don't remember how many episodes ago I started doing that, but you know, I made a few choices with my debt. I went to the Seahawks game at the Rams in the Coliseum in LA, and I put it on my credit card to pay for those tickets. So that increased the amount of my debt again, and so yeah, that's what's going on there. So as of right now, this job is only enough to survive off of. It's not really enough to do much more than survive off of, which is what it is. So anyways, for me, for my situation, and refer to older videos, you can find out a lot more about my situation if you like. So back to what I made. So what I wanted to talk about strategy this week. So as well, I did $97 in tips, and then 101 total with the $4 in cash tips. And the reason I talk about tips is because I believe it's perfectly reasonable to expect at least $1 per ride regardless of length of ride. And that's my goal, is always to match my tips, my rides and tips, the number I want to be matched or better. I did 122 rides last week. So let's talk about strategy. Let's just move into the second slide, the daily slide, of how much I made each day. And Monday was my best day. So I worked Monday through Friday. And what I want to talk about, two things today, was, is it possible to achieve the rental bonus and probably the power driver run? I'm not sure what that looks like. Is it possible to achieve the bonus Monday through Friday and have the weekends off? The answer is yes. It's taken me up till now to realize that, because their strategy, you have to learn your area, is a big part of being able to accomplish that. So, because if you look at so that's what I made each day right there. You can see. I'm going to move to the second slide, the next slide, which is the hourly breakdown, and talk about this during the hourly breakdown, so that you can see the way Lyft, as of currently, right now, as I'm recording this video, because they change this around, as I'm recording this video, they give you areas where you can get your peak time drives, they call them, where the little lightning bolts are, and then you also get, every other square is just anytime rides, I call them, or whatever. And currently, right now, as we're recording this, to get your top tier bonus, which is really the only bonus worth getting if you're in the rental program, because otherwise you're just paying too much, it's just not worth it. To get that top tier bonus, you currently need 40 peak time rides and 110 total rides, including those 40 peak time rides. And because, as you can see in this slide, there's a lot more chances to get those peak time rides on the weekend. So clearly Lyft wants you driving on the weekend. However, sometimes life is such that you don't want to work on the weekend, right? I don't always want to have to work on the weekend, because I want to do other stuff with my kids. I want to just explore life. And I've always felt like I was trapped into working on the weekends because of how many peak time rides there are offered. And then, knowing that there's not very many offered on the weekdays. The reason I believe I was able to achieve it this week was because I'm starting to understand the strategy of San Diego, of my city, of how to drive, where to get the right kind of drives, the length of rides, and things like that. So I live in an area called City Heights. If I take a ride in the morning, in those morning hours, out of City Heights, more often than not, it's a commuter ride out of the city, which takes 30-40 minutes due to traffic. So that really inhibits your ability to get more rides to go count toward that peak time ride hours. So what I did this whole week, I turned off the app until I drove closer to downtown. And if you go back a few videos to the one where I talked about where to drive in San Diego, I actually talked about an area, Bakers Hill, Hillcrest, downtown, Little Italy. There's this like triangular area in there that I find is really good for shorter rides, and it also works for the morning hours as well, as it turns out. So what I would do is I would drive past the freeways. So there's, like in San Diego, you have the 15 and the 805, and east of those you tend to get longer commuters. West of those you get people just driving either within those areas or or a lot closer. It's not guaranteed, because I did have a couple that took me out of the area, but the odds are higher to get shorter rides to count toward that bonus ride count. And so I would drive into those areas, turn on the app once I was there and get shorter rides. And I lucked out a couple of times where I got a longer ride up north, but then I ended up getting 3 or 4 rides because I was close to the San Diego State University up there, which you get, there's business people up there as well as students, so I was able to grab a handful of rides during the peak time rides as well. And then so you need 40, so it's the average is 4 to 6 if you're lucky in the mornings, and then 1 to 2 at that 5 o'clock hour if you're lucky. So you know, your average, let's just say 6 rides a day, let's just say that 6 times 4 or 5 is what, 30, right? So you need at least 10 more. And because Friday you have a really big section of time starting at 4 p.m. right now, currently 4 p.m. onward, it's pretty easy to wrap up those extra rides that you need. You can probably pretty easily get between 10 and 15 rides within that Friday night period. So, you know, as long as you get up to enough, as long as you get like 25 rides or so by the time Friday hits, you're probably looking pretty good to get those rides. So what also means is, so the layering of strategy on that was the 24 ride. For me personally, I found that 24 rides is my magic number, and it seems to be working out the last 2 weeks in a row. I'm still testing it. The current week we're in, I'm still testing this idea of going for 24 rides. And as you see, well, if you rewind this video to see how much I made each day, well, for whatever reason, Monday was amazing. I made $220, and I only made 23 rides that day because there was a whole bunch of really long rides that day. But it carried over, whereas the rest of the week I kind of made what I expected to, which was close to 150. I did like 140, 142, 150, 153 for the rest of the days of the week. But because I did so well on that Monday, it really helped disperse my ability to get my goal number of money, which is $800 per week. Because like on Friday, I was like, I made my 24 rides, I made my 120 total rides that I want for personal reasons, but then I was like still a few dollars short of breaking through to the $800 minimum for deposit. So I just stayed out until I got a couple more rides. I did 26 rides, I believe, on Friday, and it worked out. And then, of course, I'm still within the. And I wasn't sure. I'm still not clear on how this is working, but currently, right now, the cost of my rental is $180 plus tax, which brings it to about $193 or so. So, and my bonus is $200. So I actually get a couple dollars for my bonus, which is pretty darn awesome. Even if it's just that little bit, like $5 you get. I think it'd go a long way. This is a opinion. I'm going to give you an opinion here. I think it would go a long way if Lyft made sure that any driver that does the rental program or does, especially the rent, I guess it really only matters in the rental program, does the rental program and makes that top tier bonus, it goes a long way to make sure that your Lyft is still not taking money out of their deposit to make us feel valued as drivers for you. I think that would be, it would go a long way to make sure that if we're out there enough to make that top tier bonus, to make sure that the cost of the car does not exceed the amount of the bonus, because it feels a lot better. Because I've been doing this now, the rental program, for a while, and it's always a little bit of like a drag to know that, yeah, I made money and I have to make a little bit more to make my goal because I know Lyft is going to be taking some money out. Whereas now I'm on the road, and for the time being, I know, okay, I make my goal and I'm going to make that. I don't have to do mental math and go, okay, what's Lyft going to take, so how much more do I have to do? Something to consider if anybody from Lyft is actually watching this video. So that's the strategy around let me recap it real quick. Just knowing where to drive to get short rides in those peak time rides, and then once you're out of the peak time rides, go to areas that you know you get longer rides, because we know the longer rides are what actually make us money. So you have to mix it up, and that's what I found for me personally. The 24 ride number, it's like it's because that's a pretty high number for a day's worth of driving and rides, and it's just inevitable you're going to get a mix of rides. The odds are very low that you're only going to get short rides or long rides. You know, it's going to be a mixture. So 24 rides has been working out for me. If you're considering if you are driving full time and still trying to figure stuff out, or if you're thinking about it, think about that ride, because the other piece of going for 24 rides is it evens out over the week as well. So one day, like as you saw, I made $220 on Monday, and then the next day I made $140, and so it'll just, because it's a good amount of rides, it seems to even itself out. But we'll keep track of this as I go along, because I'm currently doing it again. Every day I'm going for 24 rides. Let's see, this is what I'm going to be doing for a while, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, because there's always a chance that it could come in below my personal goal of $800 a week, at least. So there's that. So that's that. If you have any questions regarding what I made this week, my strategy around it, driving during the week only to achieve your bonus, let me know. It's pretty rad. And the last piece about it is, it varies in time. Like Monday, it took me about 11, 12 hours to make 23 rides, whereas Wednesday, one of the days, Thursday or Friday, it was like Wednesday or Thursday, it took me like 8.5 hours to make those 24 rides. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do any more, because I got what I wanted, and I'm done, and I made decent money. So balancing that out, because it's like important to rest as well to make it through, so that when you have a long day, you can make it. So there's that. So anyways, let's get on to, let me know if you have any questions regarding any of that I just talked about. This one's going to be a long video. I think I already mentioned that at the top. I've kind of given up on the idea of making them short, because people are watching them with the length regardless. So, and I'm hoping that they're bringing you value. And I'll talk more about that at the end. Let's get into my star rating. So the star rating, I'm super stoked this week. There's not really much to talk about other than the fact that, as you can see, I'm rocking the perfect 5.0 rating currently right now. So currently right now, last week I ended the week with 2 days in a row. You'll see them coming up with the perfect 5.0 rating. I really didn't get any, I didn't get a lot of feedback this week. And in the feedback one that scrolls by, you'll see there was like 127 total rides. And then there's still one that says like a 4-star or below. And I'm assuming that came like past the last 100 rides, because otherwise I wouldn't have a perfect 5.0 rating. But I've been able to maintain my perfect 5.0 rating for actually 3 days in a row. 2 days last week, I took the weekend off, and then I drove on Monday this week, and I'm recording this on Tuesday, and my email came through where I still have that perfect 5.0 rating. So as of right now, I'll talk about this again probably next week, but as of right now, I've given at least 150 rides without going below 5 stars. So I feel really good about that. Like, I made a comment on my Facebook about it. Like, I'm starting to feel a little bit like, I shared it to the user groups in San Diego the first time I hit it, because it's like pretty rare to hit a perfect 5.0 rating. And I shared it, and I was like, yay me, and then then in the comments of that first share, somebody mentioned something about wanting to give me 1 star, and I was like, fine. And I managed to get a second day of a 5, so I posted on his post like, hey, it looks like I still got a 5.0. And then, but now I'm like, I'm not sharing it as much. I shared it to my personal page and wrote a note saying like, I don't, I'm stoked that I'm able to achieve the goal of being as good as I possibly can at this job, and people seem to be appreciative of what I'm doing, but I don't want to get to a place of feeling too much like I'm rubbing it in, or it just starts to get weird if like, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me in a different way. Like when you're climbing up for it, it's fun to cheer about it, but when you're on the top, I don't want to make it feel like I'm being like a bad, I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I hope you know what I'm saying. I'm just gonna just on these videos I'll talk about, I'll let you know what my rate, obviously as I do every week, what my rating's at and such, but as far as like social media, I'm not gonna really blast it out and look at me so much, because it's it feels real good. It feels real good in here to know that I'm doing the best I can, and people seem to are approving of that as well. Alright, let's get into the topic. Today's topic is cars I've driven. I've driven 5 cars for the job, and I'm probably going to have them on the screen as I talk about them. And one of them was my own car, and 4 of them have been cars through the various rental programs I'm in. And I just want to do a little pros and cons. I'm going to talk about them in the order I've done it, and you can refer back. I'll put up the screenshot of a video I did where I talked about 2 of the cars when I was in the Maven program. So maybe you can just refer back to that if you want, but I'll probably go over some of the same stuff again. Let's get into the first car. Let's do the Toyota Sienna. It was my car, 2006 Toyota Sienna LE. It was just kind of a base model car. It wasn't anything fancy. Pros and cons. Pros of this car, a plus car. You know, you could have more people. This car had a great engine, great power, great comfort. You didn't have to worry about if somebody in a Lyft line had more than 2 people, or didn't put the right amount of people on their Lyft line thing. You really didn't have to worry about it. You could just pick them up and go, because I never ran into a problem with anybody getting more, like filling all 6 seats in a Lyft line. I don't know if they would do that, how it works totally, but there's a lot of space. So bottom line is a lot of space. Like I said, you get the plus rides, so you maybe get a little bit more for doing the plus rides. The plus rides are a lot of fun at times too, because if you get your car full, like for me, I'm the type of person, that driver, that likes it to be fun in the car. Like when there's a group of kids or group of people going, they've done their pre-funk at their house and they're on their way to the show and they're ready, they're getting amped up, they want to use the aux cable to put on some music, they crank it up, we all get rowdy. I personally like that. I know there's a lot of drivers that probably don't like that, but so when there's a chance for the group of people in the car to get rowdy and have fun in a way that's respectful of everybody, it's not like they're all wasted, drunk, and throwing up it or whatever, you know, it's not that kind of rowdy, but actually having fun and being excited for what they're about to do. You can get that a little more often in the plus vehicles, because there's more people in the car and they're all just having a good time. So that's what I liked. Those are some of the pros of a Toyota Sienna 2006. Some of the cons, it's a little bit, you know, it was by far the car that used the most gas, because that's what I've been basing my own gas money off of, is how my first experience driving the Sienna, and it definitely uses the most gas. And it's bigger, so it's a little bit harder to find places to pull over or whatnot when you're picking people up in busier areas. So those are really the only 2 cons I can think of. This particular one, this was a 2006, so I mean, if you had a new one, of course it'd be new and work better. The reason I'm not driving this one anymore is because it was too old for the job. So that was that. So the next car I got into was the Chevy Equinox, the 2015 Chevy Equinox. And I don't know the specs, again, I don't know the specs, like which version I had of any of these cars. I just know, so I'll talk about it, how it felt to me. But unfortunately I don't have the specs, so I can't tell you like engine size and all this kind of stuff. I just know the comfort and like what it felt. The Equinox, the pros of the Equinox were pretty roomy. People seemed to really like it. I got tons of compliments when passengers got in the car. They really felt like, oh wow, it's a lot more roomier in here than I expected. Honestly, that's pretty much the only pro I could think of. Cons were, it was, as a driver, super uncomfortable. I don't know, it's the only car I've been in that my back would start hurting. So whatever was going on with the front seat, it was cloth. This one was like cloth seats, or, you know, kind of thing. When I first got in the car, I thought it was like, oh, this is nice, it was new and everything, but as I drove it, and then of course as I experienced other cars, feeling the difference, I realized in hindsight that this one is my least favorite of all the cars that I've driven, so that's kind of more on the cons list. But let me talk about I already did the pros. So the other cons of the car, turning radius is horrible. It's like, especially in San Diego, and especially this job is kind of a job where you get a request and you might need to turn around, do a U-turn, turn in narrow, you know, like just do a lot more turning around, just going the opposite direction you started in. And so turning radius was horrible, worst turning radius of all the cars I've driven. Power was horrible. I mean, no guts whatsoever. It's like doing this job, you need to be able to react to the traffic, because there's, you know, lots of traffic going on, so sometimes you need to gun it. Sometimes gunning it is important to do to secure the safety of your passengers and yourself. So knowing that your car's going to respond when it's time to go is important, and this car did not have that kind of responsiveness. Okay, so the audio wise, good stereo. Like for me, music's very important. It sounded good. However, the Bluetooth connectivity, which I use an iPod for all my music, and the Bluetooth connectivity was terrible, terrible, terrible. It did have an alright interface. I liked the way it was connected. I liked how you could see the music, what you were listening to and stuff on the screen. It had a really nice screen that way. Other than that, that's about it. Don't recommend this car. I do not recommend this car. This next car was actually so far my favorite car that I've had. It was the Chevy Malibu. Let's put one up on the screen. Chevy Malibu. This particular model I had leather trim, which super plus. I think you should be driving a car with leather trim if you can. If you have the option, you should be getting in a car with leather. It just makes it's more comfortable as a driver, and it's the perception of value, the perception that passengers have when they get in their car. They feel like they're being taken care of more, and I believe more apt to give you tips and just more apt to feel better about the ride. This particular car, best car, great power. Pros, yeah, we're on pros, right? Yeah, pros. Great power, great comfortable. Leather trim was awesome. Roomy. Nice and roomy. Trunk space, pretty good. I'd say trunk space was like 8 out of 10, maybe 7.5 out of 10. Legroom was good. Interior just kind of effect was awesome. They had these it was nice they had these LED lights around the dashboard that at night made the interior feel a little more illuminated, so it didn't feel so dark. The current car I'm in, which we'll get to in a minute, it's like pitch black in there at night, and it's kind of not as nice. It feels kind of creepy in a way. So the fact that this car had this LED illuminated thing going on during night driving, I thought was a great plus. What else? I think that's about it for the pros. The cons of it, again, it's the same. It's a 2015 Chevy Malibu. Same cons as the Equinox, which was the stereo system. It sounded fine, but the Bluetooth connectivity was shy. It was really bad. So that was the major con there, just because it just was annoying, basically. I feel like there was one other thing that I wasn't super stoked on, but can't remember now. So whatever. Maybe I said it in the last video I posted. Next car, the VW Passat. I don't know what model it was, because this one could have been my favorite car if things played right. If it had leather interior, I would probably, and it ran better, it would have been better. But let me get to that in a second, because there's a asterisk kind of by that. This was the first of the Equinox and the Malibu were when I was in the Maven program. Now I'm in the Hertz program, and the first car I got was a Chevy or a VW Passat. So pros, super roomy, the most roomy of all the cars. I don't even know how they got more room into that car. The front passenger seat could be like all the way back, and there was still mega room for the passengers in the back, which is fairly important if you have a full car. Also, the trunk space, super. I could fit the stuff that I like to fit, my water, and I have brought a car seat of my own and then I just have a few extra things that I just keep in the car. I keep a change of clothes and like emergency kit type stuff in the back of the car. So all that was in there. Plus, there was plenty of room for any luggage that would come by. It was it was awesomely roomy trunks. Like it was pretty awesome. Bluetooth stereo wise. So audio wise, it wasn't the best. It was kind of crappy audio wise, but in terms of just what I want. But Bluetooth connectivity was on point. It was like great. Backup assistant. The backup assistant, I've become accustomed to it now that I've been using it, and the screen on the Malibu and the Equinox a lot better than the backup assist on the VW. The VW backup assist, the screen is really small. The angle of the camera, I didn't like it as much as I liked the other one. So that's just a side note. Power was great. Everything was great. In this particular car, I had some braking mechanical issues. so it wasn't really the fault of the car. It was just the wear and tear and the lack of maintenance that was done on it before I got it. So if it was running as good as it could be, and it had leather interior, I would probably be still in that car, and it would have been my favorite car of all of them so far. Probably, but that Malibu I really liked too. So both, I think they're both worth it at this point. I mean, what the Passat didn't have was like that illuminated interior like the Malibu did when at night driving. So I don't know how much that would play for me if I was driving it more and had more time to spend with the car. But I really like the car. Jeep Compass is what I'm in right now. Let's put it on the screen. And this one sucks. This was my second least favorite car. Not too much less of a favorite than the Equinox. Or more, yeah, less, whatever. But anyways, it's terrible. This is probably pretty base model. I don't know. It's very uncomfortable as a driver. It's like not very comfortable at all. This car makes my butt hurt as opposed to my back, so there's that issue. Driving around a lot. Maybe it's just the fact that I've been driving around a lot and it's finally caught up to me regardless of what car I was in, or maybe this car is just making it worse. I don't know, but my butt hurts when I'm in it, so that's no fun. The power. Oh, I'm doing cons. What's pros? Any pros? I really don't have any pros because I do not recommend this car at all. The pros, the only pro that I could think of is there's a really loyal fan base of Jeep that I've noticed. There's a lot of people that get in that car and they're like, ooh, Jeep. And it's like, yeah, this car sucks. Why are you so excited about Jeep? I don't know. But as for the job, maybe the only thing I can think about like that would be good about this car is if you like Jeep and you want something that you're not going to use as an everyday commuter type thing, and you just kind of like want something to go car camping with here and there. But I don't know. You'd have to go test drive it and see if it's something that you want to get involved with. But as far as the job goes, I don't recommend it. I'm looking forward to getting out of it as soon as possible. A couple of reasons why. It's like I said, it's uncomfortable as a driver. There's not a lot of legroom for passengers. This particular one I'm in has like a pleather interior, so the interior looks kind of nice, but there's not a lot of space. The trunk space is terrible. There's not really a lot of trunk space, even though it's like this little mini SUV kind of thing. What else? And that's about, turning radius is okay. Power, oh yeah, power sucks. If there's 4 passengers in the car, it totally starts to just like putter out. It does not like driving around with more than one person in the car at all. So yeah, don't recommend. Oh, and the last thing, that the back door handles are up on the door rather than in the normal handle spot. They're kind of like up along the side by the window, and pretty often people don't see. So what happens pretty often is they're looking for the back door handle, they can't see it, so then they start to reach for the front door handle, and then they see it, and then they go back to the back door. So it's just kind of funny to watch that happen in the car. The other thing that is very important for me, because I like to provide cell phone power and different things like that, and connect everything. I have the amp, cell phone power. I have 3 cell phone chargers. I have my own phone and my iPod, which I charge. I just use my iPod charger as the one I give to passengers when they want it. An Apple charger. But the Jeep only has 1 cigarette lighter thing adapter, and currently I have the cigarette lighter adapters that have 2 USB things in them, and I have 2 of them. And in the past, all the other cars have had they had either had two cigarette lighter type things, or those and a USB that's just in the car as well. So I was able to plug everything in easily. This car, I can't do that. I have to swap things out, and depending on who needs what. So it's just a bummer that way. It's just not set up for me to give the level of service that I want to give as easily as I want to. That's that. There is one somewhat of a pro. I do like, so in the other cars, the way I use my phone to connect, or to like my holder, is one of those types that connects to the air vents, and the other cars were more sloped back, so I'd have to reach farther out to do my manipulating of my phone. Whereas this car is a little more vertical, so it's a little bit easier to do that. It's kind of a plus, but it doesn't nearly outweigh all the cons of this car. So I do not recommend this car. Do not, if you have a choice, don't take the Jeep. Take something else. Overall, and probably should have mentioned this at the top of this section, was overall my philosophy on, especially if you're a full-time driver, my philosophy on this is, and I've said it before, is this is your office. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time. So I personally want my office to be as comfortable and as nice as possible. So for me, what I want to get in, what I found I like the best so far is a sedan style car that has leather interior. Those are like my two main criteria. The leather interior, if I get a car with leather, you're automatically getting a better car because they don't put leather in cars that are base model or just economy or whatever. They put leather in cars that are just better cars. So if I have a car with leather, I'm getting into a better car, period. And that for me is important. And I find, like I mentioned already, customers like it when the perceived value, the perception of the interior of the car makes them feel like they're taken care of more. And with leather, that can do that. And of course, when I offer my cell phone and goodies and stuff like that, that helps that as well. There is the argument to go for fuel economy. I not totally, like a lot of cars these days have, a comparable fuel efficiency, unless you're in a hybrid or a fully electric car. And in the rental program, we really don't get those offered to us. Prius is super popular for this job. If that's what you want, I think you can get Prius in leather. I personally don't like the Prius, so I don't really ever want to drive a Prius. I've driven one once as a rental car back at one time. I'm not a big fan of it, but it does save you gas, so that's something to think about if you're really concerned about that. I am not as concerned. Maybe I should be more concerned, but I'm not as concerned about it at this time. But that's my review of the cars that I've driven. Let me know if you have any questions regarding any of them, and I'd be happy to answer them. I also been doing a Instagram account based on my rideshare experience. Like every day I post something. A lot of it is like how much I made. I'll break down a little bit more sometimes about my hourly rate, what I made that day in terms of how many app hours I drove, how much I made, and I'll put like, oh, that was $21 an hour today, or $14 an hour, or whatever it may have been per app hour, just to kind of get, which I don't do on this show at all. So if you want to scroll through there and look at some of that information, you can. Just little goofy stuff like when I take breaks, I'll take pictures of things, of what I'm eating and different things like that. But so that's that. Love to have you follow me on that at Rideshare Zim. And then of course, if you found this video because you want to become a Lyft driver, use my referral code ZIM200. I get a few people that refer, and I think I got a new one last week, which I want to give a shout out to. Let's see here if I can get to it before my time runs out. But yeah, I've gotten a few people to sign up, but really very few have followed through and actually given rides. And the ones that have given rides haven't given a lot of rides. So hopefully one day I'll get somebody that will give a lot more. Dimitri, I believe, from New York. I believe he's from New York. Dimitri, thanks a lot for signing up. I'm glad to have you part of the Zim's Rideshare team, right? So this is awesome. I'm about out of time for this one, so if you have any questions, of course, let me know. Comment, anything if you like the video. Share it around with your fellow rideshare drivers if you think it's value to the community. I'd love to have you do that. Give it a thumbs up, as I've been holding my thumb up to show you. And then subscribe to the channel, of course. So subscribe to the channel. And thanks a lot for being a part of this. I'll catch up with you again next time I make one of these. Peace.